Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Uh, Look, they forgot about the arena. There's nothing to be said. So we're
Hey,
just gonna talk about something we made up. That's it.
they did not tell us much about anything, whether it's the arena or anything else, really. They said a little bit about Battlegrounds. They announced the Mercenaries update, which is going to be huge. Not enough to get me to play Mercenaries again, but it's going to be huge. They're having a new coin system to deal with the old extra coins. They converted to new useful coins. So finally, this was something that people expected would be done almost a year ago. And it is getting done now. But when it comes to the arena, we do have, like Merp said, zero information. What we do have, though, is a uncharacteristic Blizzard announcement of an announcement of an announcement that also pre-announced some of the big changes because it would be too big to all fit on the announcement date. This has never been done before.
Uh, yeah, Blizzard doesn't typically do this. As in, this is something that companies don't like to do. They don't like to hype something up if they aren't sure that it'll create the response that they want. So Blizzard basically hyping something up means something big should be coming out. It's not just like standard patch or standard announcement of a like an expansion
Mm-hmm.
announcement. This is something different, and we have thoughts. It's out there already for like other people have guessed it, but maybe it should, maybe it'll affect arena, maybe it won't. I'm just kind of sad that we did not get dual class arena for this year,
I don't
and
know
I'm
about that. I think we might
yeah,
get Dual Class Arena after Halloween this time.
we might get it after Halloween, right? They might just say, hey, it's not Halloween themed, right? It doesn't have to be
Oh,
Halloween. We could just have an event called dual class arena,
yeah,
and that's fine.
I'm gonna quote this. This is called Hollow's End is nearly upon us. Hollow's End is coming with patch 24.6, which is this next patch that will at least get announced, if not launch, on Tuesday. We go big this year with some fun new things and the return of some old fan favorites. Details will be shared soon. So I would not be surprised if Dog Class Arena gets announced and that it stays around for an entire month, just like last year, and we quit Arena for a while. That is entirely possible. I hope it doesn't happen because I am against fun or whatever it is this Dual Class Arena thing is. But I will give it a shot. I will give it a shot, especially if they do something new to it, which they probably will, because they now have an actual team working on these events instead of just copying and pasting literally the same event for 8 years, or I guess 6 years is how long they've had this event. Um, but yeah, stuff is coming. The rest of this podcast really is going to be a lot of speculation because we know nothing. But the big speculation that everybody is on board with is that the Death Knight class may be coming out. This is something that's been data mined. It's definitely in the game. It's definitely coming out at some point. It's been leaked. Nobody knows exactly when it's coming out, but it's been leaked that it's coming out. And then the Blizzard makes this announcement that is like look at what things they announced last week that was too big for the proper announcement stream. The new Battlegrounds Bash, which gives you prizes, like free stuff. That was not important enough to be saved for the actual announcement. That is too minor of a thing. A whole new system, event system that is, set up with a Halloween theme, was not important enough. Mercenaries task rework and renown system. The renown system being the new way they use old coins and turn them into new coins. The one thing that all mercenaries players have been asking for an entire year, that was not important enough to make the actual announcement. They had to announce it beforehand. Loaner decks for new and returning players, allowing you to just get a deck for free in order to play. So that old players can come back into the constructed game. That's normally like a big deal that you would want to really advertise to your player base so that they get their friends back in the game or they get new players or whatever. That was not important enough for Tuesday's big announcement. So what is Tuesday? That's like 3, not like, oh, here are some new cards. That's like 3 new whole systems. And it covers the bases from like a technical gameplay element of progression that everyone's been asking for, to free stuff for everybody who plays Battleground, to the social aspect of getting your friends and getting returning old players who have quit the game to come back. It covers everything. And none of this was important enough. Like, I think it's Death Knight. I'm on board with this. I think there's nothing that can be big enough to announce that they would do this for except Death Knight.
Yeah, look, what was the exact term they used? Like an old favorite or like a fan favorite or something like that? I think it has to be that, just because it's something that I have seen mentioned over and over again. People, okay, look, people obviously complain about it on the constructed end, on the arena end as well. And if you listen to this, you know our thoughts about it for the arena. But people kind of liked all the heroes to some extent. And what people complained about with Death Knights, it's something that as Hearthstone went on, it just kind of ended up being as well. Like, they were just like, oh, it just ends up being a Death Knight deck, right? It's like everything revolves around like Rexar, right? Like, remember Deathstalker Rexar was meta defining for a long, long time. And in Arena, people cried about like Frostlich Jaina. But if you look at where Hearthstone is now, a lot of it is kind of, for lack of a better term, solitaire. You're playing towards your win condition, right? And yeah, you have to consider what's on the other side of the board. You have to stop them a little bit. But Hearthstone has become more and more solitaire, and I think that if you were to reintroduce Death Knight, it's like, okay, we're kind of used to this level of solitaire now, and the old complaints about Death Knights, well, we're sort of comfortable with it by now.
Okay, I wasn't talking about like the existing Death Knight cards. I think that a new class is coming, like Demon Hunter.
Oh no, I think it's both.
Oh,
like, I think it's
okay,
both.
okay. So they're gonna bring Death Knights back into the arena, for example, as part of like the celebration of Death Knights getting
I thought we were
released.
talking about both things. No. I definitely think it's like a new class as well. But I think it's like, because I don't know like what they're gonna do with the new class, right?
Oh,
So
I
I'm
think
not
they're gonna
talk
drop
about
it.
that first.
I like here's my
Oh
prediction.
yeah. Well, yeah, but I'm like, like, I think they're gonna drop it. Yes. Like, do I know what it is gonna be about? I have no idea. No. Right?
Yeah, but how does that relate to the old Death Knight cards? You think the new Death Knight is gonna like have like a character change mechanic as one of its like class mechanics? I guess maybe.
No. I think that they are going to bring the Death Knight cards back into the arena, and I think they're gonna do something with Death Knights, like some old, some new, in constructed as well.
Like an event that affects everybody. That's gonna bring
Yes,
Death Knights in.
I think it's going to be. I don't know if they're gonna do some. I have no idea, but I would be surprised if it was just, quote, just the new Death Knight class.
Yes. Yes. That would be interesting. I didn't think about the actual event stuff, mostly because I personally don't care about it. But that would be crazy if they just put Death Knights back into constructed, as well as arena, obviously, and then like just have it happen. Like, I think Death Knight's dropping on Tuesday, as in starting on Tuesday, we will be able to, or Wednesday, whenever the patch actually goes live, we will all be able to play with the new Death Knight class, because they did that with Demon Hunters. They dropped it about a month, maybe like 3 weeks earlier than the actual expansion, and it was just like this like stub period. And so we are right now probably about 4 weeks out of whenever the next expansion is, and so you could just drop Death Knight right now with all of its like not neutral, all of its like class basic cards. What do they call it now? Core cards. With all of their core cards, and not have the expansion, and then the expansion kicks in 4 weeks, and oh look, here's 10 more Death Knight cards for you to play with, right? like really like build the buzz and then like hype it up. So people who are really hyped about it can start playing immediately, and people who are less hyped about it by holiday season, Christmas time, beginning of December, they're like, Death Knight has all these cool cards, like let's kind of like jump in. But either way, that's going to be huge. I remember when Demon Hunter was added to the arena, it dominated for like 2 months, and then they nerfed it to hell, and you didn't see it. And then the next expansion launched, and it dominated again for a month, and then they nerfed it to hell, and you didn't see it. So they had a lot of trouble balancing Demon Hunters.
It was really tough, especially because it was the first hero that had a 1 mana hero power, and that changes a lot of things, right? It was a 1 mana hero power that was like very aggressive. It was like it's an extremely good hero power. And here's the thing about Blizzard: they have a foundational, systemic kind of belief or attitude. New things should be above all else fun, and we don't mind if it is overpowered, and that's fine. Like that's fine. You definitely don't want your new stuff to suck, and for people to be like, "Oh, this just isn't fun," and it's not powerful. And if it's just not powerful, it's probably not going to be fun for a lot of people as well. So I fully expect the new class to be overpowered. Now, there is a difference between overpowered in constructed versus overpowered in the arena, right?
Yes.
If it is based on all of these like synergies or kind of if it's like synergy or combo, that's going to be really tough, right? But if it was like Demon Hunter, in which it was like a tight aggro package that just had really, really good cards individually.
Yeah.
That's what made Demon Hunters so
and you
good.
can go the other way, like Priest, right? Like the new Priest-like class comes out where you have a tight control package. Because remember, there's going to be very few cards that come out in the beginning. And they're going to build the collection up of whatever new class is coming out. So in the beginning, Arena for this class will feel very consistent. Because your class cards are only going to be the 10 in the core card or however many. You're going to get them. And so if a lot of them are, let's say, control or card draw or whatever, then you have a very good base. Same if a lot of them are very aggressive and tempo based. You just have to have some kind of theme to come together. And then you will just have for Arena, more synergistic deck than any of the other classes. Because the other classes all have a lot of things going on and get diluted, right? And this one will not get diluted. So if they come out with a class that's like Warrior, where like, yeah, your hero power gives you armor, but the armor's not the point. The point is all the fancy combos you do with the armor. That's not going to translate to Arena. But yeah, there's a good chance that this is going to be an overpowered class in the Arena. And if this is how it's going to be, though, I kind of really like that if they bring dual class Arena up here at the same time. Because one, if you bring dual class Arena in at the same time, at least for Arena, it means Death Knight can't be played as a pure class yet. Which means that you have half of your dilution problem, not dilution, I guess concentration of cards problem, right? Like not enough cards in the pool problem as you would normally. And then by the time December rolls around, you have a new set, and then you can actually play Death Knight. It'll at least be better from an Arena perspective. So I think maybe unintentionally, this is going to be good for the Arena to do a dual class event during this time, if Death Knight is the new class and it's coming out on Tuesday.
This is why I said, like, oh, it's a shame that there is no dual class for this year, because I, just like you, believe that they're dropping it, right? It's like, oh, we're announcing it, we're dropping it. And because of that, I can't imagine them doing dual class when there is a new class to play. And in the Arena, which is already struggling, you can't play as it, right? Like, you play this weird... It's like, oh, I'm a mage demon hunter.
I think the opposite. I think they want to, I think they want to drop it, and they want nobody to be playing the Arena. I think if you play Arena and Constructed, they want you to play Constructed. They don't want you to play Arena. They want the only people to be playing Arena to be the people who would not play constructed anyway, who are either battlegrounds players or mercenary players or duels players or I don't know, whatever, right? Those players can play the arena. So arena will have some kind of event and the availability of Death Knight, but to the extent they think about arena or not, I don't think there's going to be a big push to like actively get people in the arena for this drop. I think it's constructed. You know, they design all the new content for constructed, and they want people to try it out. They don't want people to try out Death Knight in arena. They want people to try out Death Knight in constructed.
I feel as though if they are dropping the Death Knight class, that they will want you that they're basically saying, hey, play Hearthstone generally. Like, we're coming out with this class, and you can have opportunities to play it. Because I don't know how many constructed, kind of like converts they can get. Because it is
not
so
converts,
right?
just like constructed players. Or do you mean that there's just not a lot of players that play both constructed and arena?
Yeah, or like basically, look, if you're an arena player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just gonna go jam constructed to
Maybe.
play the? I don't know,
Look,
maybe,
if they
but
come out with this, I will bet a lot of arena players will dip into constructed for the month.
oh yeah, I think they'll dip into it, but I think that they can maximize just people playing their game, period, if you also offer the chance to just play
All right.
Death Knight
All right,
in
let me
arena
come at
by
it from a
itself.
different angle. You will get double the opportunity to play Death Knight in a dual class arena situation. Because it's arena, you have to roll Death Knight, and it will be one of 11 classes. So it will be 3 out of 11. That's your rate of being able to play Death Knight if you do, under the current odds, which
Yeah,
is very low. That's like less than
it's very
30%.
low
But if you
versus
do
you
dual
getting.
class arena, the chance of doing something Death Knight related, huh? 3 divided by 11
Yeah,
times
but
point.
something no, but something Death Knight related is not Death Knight. It's
Ah,
something Death Knight related.
it's half of Death Knight. It's all the cards. You're all like half the cards are available are going to be Death Knight cards, and
I don't think
sometimes maybe
that
the hero power.
I don't think that's the way people think. I think people think of what they can't get, right? Because there is this new class that they can't play. I think that's what people will focus on.
Hmm.
So this is why no, we're on the same page here. I think they drop Death Knights on that day, right? I think so. But I think the time for dual classes passed. They could still drop it. Look, I don't know what's going to happen. I certainly do not have like knowledge of this. I don't know. But I think that they are going to drop it, and I think what is going to happen is we don't have dual class because they want people to have the opportunity to play the new class in the arena. But I do think that they are going to bring back the Death Knight cards
Hmm.
for the arena. So we have an event. You can play the new class as the new class, not like some weird amalgamation of the class. And every single class has like Death Knight cards returning, and maybe like another meta shakeup, right? Because let's face it, the meta needs a shakeup. Whether it's introducing like limited time cards, whether it's doing like a balance. They probably won't balance if they're introducing a new class because what's their balance, right? Like see
Right.
how it shakes out first.
Like it could
So
just
I'm
be a new
guessing,
rotation
yeah, it could just be a new
because all the
rotation,
Death
but
Knight cards except like a couple are all in the same rotation, right? So they could be like
yep.
it'll be I forget which rotation. It was like Frozen Throne, I think that was the one that had all the Death Knight cards. So you would just bring that back, and then I'll say also we're adding the like 4 other Death Knight cards we released since then also back in the pool.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll do that exactly, as in bring back the exact expansion. Perhaps they'll do sort of like a Taverns of Time kind of thing
Mm.
where they're reintroducing just a handful of cards, right? And among those cards are cards that we have seen before, as in the Death Knights. So, I like that's my feeling of what's going to happen. We are in agreement that we think that the class is going to get dropped on that date. Um, but I think our differences are sort of like I believe there's going to be some event in the arena that is not dual class that allows you to play the new class immediately. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm just hoping something happens here, and it's not just like, oh, like play this new class. Arena is the same old, same old.
Yeah, I'm sure something will happen. This all sounds really, really big, and I know historically when things go really, really big, Arena is often left out, regardless, and like anyway. But I think this time Arena won't be left out. Something will happen, even if the something is just, hey, dual class for the next month. You know, like something will happen. This is like a big event, um, and they're choosing to do it after Halloween for some reason this year. I feel like they did it before Halloween always, but maybe they were like, we do it before Halloween back when it was like more excitement about the next expansion. And here, there's not going to be as much excitement about the next expansion, or maybe they're tracking internal metrics, and Hearthstone's just generating less excitement. Period. So they want to like squeeze everything into the holiday season rather than like spread it out. I don't know, but it is an interesting strategy that they had no event in October, and they're going to put everything in November and probably part two of everything in December um, to try to push for this. This is also following their introduction of runes, right? That's the new currency. So they really want to make a big push right now to get everybody to be playing this game, getting comfortable with runes, spending some money, and they need content to do that. Like a lot of content, new content that'll make people on the fence be like, all right, I guess this is just what we're doing in Hearthstone now, and I will spend some money and buy some packs or like, Battlegrounds things or whatever. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, the for the Death Knight itself, I think, and this is just my speculation with nothing to ground it. I think the hero power is going to be something defensive in nature and slow. I think it'll help you get to whatever the later stages of the game is, because the last release, Demon Hunter, was doing the exact opposite. Right? It was very
All right,
pushy.
hear me out.
Right.
1 mana,
Uh
gain 1 armor.
huh. I think it'll be fancier than that. Like Demon Hunter was very basic, right? One mana gain one attack. You already saw it. It's druid. It's rogue. It's just a different way of doing it. I think Death Knight is going to have a different mechanic altogether that the other classes just don't have, and its hero power will relate to it. It's going to be very bespoke.
What
Um,
if it's the first hero with a passive hero power?
could be a passive hero power.
Could be. Could be.
Yeah, but the whole point of Death Knights is that people become Death Knights, right? And it's like kind of a you build up to it kind of like thing. So for the Death Knight itself, and Death Knights have a lot of armor. You picture a knight, so they've got to have some kind of healing or armor abilities. Paladin already took healing, so you're gonna be left with some armor. Um, and I don't know what it'll actually end up being, but I think we're going to get another, if not control class, then at least attrition class in the arena.
Yep.
Which is fair, because right now, if you talk about arena and control or attrition, you're mostly talking about priest. And priest is kind of on this lonely island where, like, sometimes shaman will join it, sometimes warlock will join it, sometimes warrior joins it, but for the most part, it really, and sometimes mages join it, but for the most part, it's just priest. And about time we have another one. On the other hand, Paladin's always tempo. Hunters, they do things to Hunter, but Hunter should always be tempo. Demon Hunter should always be tempo. You have like a lot of tempo leaning classes, and in Arena at least, you really don't have that many control leaning classes. And so having one more will, I mean, I'll hate it, but it'll at least give some balance to the diversity and your like ability to engage in each of these archetypes.
Yep. I think that's fair. Look, we're talking about all this stuff right now. It is possible that Tuesday rolls around and it is just kind of a flop, right? I don't know what it could be. Imagine it's all of this, and the big reveal is that there's like new rune bundles in the shop. I don't know, something that's just like really really disappointing. Um, in that case, next time they do an announcement like this, then I think we would all set our expectations lower. But Blizzard typically doesn't do this. Like whenever they do this, it's like, oh, something big is happening. A new mode is coming out. They're introducing a new class. Like it's always been something pretty big.
Yep. All right. Well, we're all looking forward to it, and that's why we're not even going to analyze anything with this meta because we did like 2 episodes in a row of decent analysis, I think, and we've also talked about this meta to death. And at the end of the day, it's really just not a very interesting meta to begin with. So brush up on your fundamentals in this meta a little bit, even if it matters significantly less than you would hope it would. It's still good to engage in that, and the meta does allow you to engage in it, even if it ultimately doesn't matter. Um, I don't know what the next meta is going to be, but the topic I want to talk about that kind of links into this is as everything gets more and more overpowered. And remember, we're not there yet. It's not the December expansion yet, but I'm sure the December expansion is going to be announced. If not now, then in like 2 weeks from now. And it's like coming right around the corner. And the December expansion is always when the power creep happens. So because we just had a huge power creep with Alteric in last December, I'm not expecting another power creep yet. I think the next power creep will be next December, not this one. But still, December ones are going to be a pretty powerful set. And we now have 4 sets after the December one comes out in this new power level. So we keep talking about how standard arena is kind of the way to go now, at least half the time, but they haven't done it for a while. And even if they do go back to it, it leaves the question of, hey, the other half of the time you're still doing wild rotations. Or maybe even more than half the time you're doing wild rotations. So my question is, what do you do about the wild rotations? They're not going to drop it. You know they're not going to drop it, like, completely. How do you balance those from here on out? Does it just have to be a curated set of cards from the old sets? Like, what do you think some of the solutions are? Because Matt London has also teased a bit that they're coming up with bigger solutions than what we've been getting that take longer time to work on or program or whatever. So the door could be open a bit for some more changes than just offering rates. Like, what would allow a game developer to keep using the old sets in an arena style environment with the new sets mixed together and not have the problems that we've been having?
Look, the answer comes down to how much resources and work Blizzard is willing to allocate into this project. So, simple ones, and here's the thing. I don't exactly know what is quote simple, and I don't exactly know what is hard because for them, like I don't program these things. I don't know the code for Hearthstone. What I have seen is that messing with this stuff is really, really hard for them because it's been a long time, right? Like things go wrong. I don't exactly know how easy it is for them to change certain aspects of the game. Having said that, a quote easy way in my mind, and once again, I don't know how hard it is to program, because one of the problems with these older sets is the power variance, right? You get vanilla like 3 mana 3/3s up against just insane cards. So what you can do is just give like 5 more picks, and at the end say you can get rid of 5 cards. So this creates smoothness in not only curve, because whenever rotations change, sometimes we'll also tell you, hey, this you're not getting threes, you're not getting good threes, so grab those premium threes. Or man, like this is one in which your twos are going to be kind of hard to get, except if you're like this class or that class. It helps smooth that out a little bit more. It allows you to not play as safe, especially if you are like a bad class. You can definitely swing even more for the fences. Um, and you can get rid of those cards. If you want to allocate more resource into it, you can do curated sets, right? You can actually take time to take out some of these cards, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to kind of like do amazing things. Just looking at some of the really bad cards, and they have lots of data by now. Like they know historically some of the win rates of these cards. Take those out, right? Just take all of those out, and then because the first time you do it, it won't be amazing, and then you'll get some data about it. But you can do that. I think that takes more time in some ways, maybe less time in others. Um, Otherwise, I think other solutions are probably going to take more time. But I think this, to me, are like, okay, the pick 35 and out of those at the end, just scrap 5 to me seems like the easiest. And then the sort of the more curated, as in you don't have to go and ask like Mr. 9.4, or you don't have to ask like Judge or any of these people what their thoughts are. You could do it yourself, just take out a lot of the shitty cards, right? So I
Mhm.
think these are two of the easiest ones possible.
Yeah. So one of the big problems with these kinds of mixed wild rotations between new cards and old cards is that whenever you do have any of the new cards that are these big bombs or whatever, it just ends the game, right? Like you play a Sire, game ends. You can lower the offering rate, and then you're reducing the number of games in which game ends. But they're still there, and they are, a bit worse of a swing than before. And you can't solve that problem. Like even if you take 5 and then you get 5 extra cards and you get to pick, you solve the low end. You solve the consistency problem, right? You solve the problem of like, oh, some of these cards are so bad. Like I don't want to take a 4-mana 3/3. But you've actually increased the percent chance that you do have a Sire in your deck by like whatever 5/30 is. It's 1/6. But yeah, so it's I obviously like the idea of more consistency in the deck, and you can always adjust to your desired amount of Sires in your arena or Sire-like cards with the offering rate penalties. Like maybe you lower your legendary rate penalty, your legendary offering rates in general to account for the fact that you're getting 5 more cards in your picks, and you're probably keeping the legendaries. There's a lot of existing ways to work that in, but that kind of only solves for like half the problem, is my point. The big problem of these kinds of ridiculous cards in Wild, I think the only way to solve those is to ban the cards. Like, that's why I think the first meta should always be standard. Because you want everyone to play with all the cards. But then whenever you want to go to a wild rotation, rather than having these cards exist at all, even in extremely low percentages, like I care about it less, but I think a lot of people just have a lot less fun when Sire comes out and destroys everything. I have yet to this day lost to a Sire. I know that I beat a Sire once because a mage used the thing that gives everybody a legendary, and they picked Sire, and I did it, and they got a Sire. I was like, oh no, they have a Sire, and then I beat them before turn 10. So I've beaten at least one Sire that I know of, and I've never lost to a Sire. But that's just me. A lot of people seem to have a lot of problems dealing with that card and meeting up with that card. The real trick is just to not meet up with that card, right? And it ruins their game experience, and that's not going to change, right? Like, you're going to lower the odds of the cards that's still going to be there. Why is that there, right? Why is that card in there? Is it fun for the person with the Sire? Probably not fun enough compared to like the 12 people that they beat up on with the Sire. Like, that can't be a positive, fun utility equation at the end of the day for a game developer. The 12 people had less fun. One person had like somewhat more fun. Like the math doesn't work out on your utility calculations for a game developer.
Some people really like playing Sire, though.
Yeah, sure, some people, but like that's got to be less than the people who really hate playing against Sire, which is everybody.
Yeah, I can certainly think of some people who don't like going up against Sire.
So I think that like midway through or whenever, you just look at your deck and you're like, hey, we're going to keep the current set in because it is the current set, and here's like 30 cards in this set that are banned in Arena. Like, it's just the expected ban wave that happens. Like, call it the wild rotation excluded cards from this meta, so that the other cards can stay in. So it'll be kind of like a curated set, but again, right, we're trying to limit the amount of work that developers actually have to do instead of just picking the best cards. Which I'm sure they can do, but that's a lot of work. You can just find ways to limit, right? So you're still picking some cards, but you're picking in larger, swoops, and you're solving more problems with less effort.
Yep. I think it's good to delete these things from the game or from Arena. Um, you want Arena to have these incremental advantages, and you want comebacks, but the bombs are just a little bit too big right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a bomb such as Sire is just something in which, and look, I think it's very telling that in the basically whenever they printed Sire, they also printed Theatar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have complaints about Theatar. A lot of people have complaints about a lot of the things that were printed in the same time. But Blizzard also realizes like, hey, if we're gonna do these big bombs, we want there to be a way to disrupt. And we sense that games are getting to a point in which, okay, I wait, I play solitaire, I hold you off, I do my thing, and then I win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to give players like, okay, we want to give you some way
Yeah.
to fight back against that because Hearthstone is just very non-interactive in that way. MTG is very like you interact with the other player's hand
Yes.
in many ways.
But you also interact with them at
So
every step on every turn, even when it's their turn.
on yes,
Like
on
you have to
every
be
step,
like,
on every
yes, I
turn.
allow you to do
Yep.
this. Yes, I allow you to do this. Yes, I do not
Right.
interrupt you with my instant.
Yes. And in Hearthstone, is you lazily set up a secret, and then the secret kind of does its thing, right? Like it's like, oh, you walked into my trap card, kind of thing, in which all you have are like specific trap cards. So Hearthstone basically gave you a way during this time period to interact with it. But what it really means in the arena, because in the arena Theatar sucks because you don't know when they have a
Hey,
Sire. You
Theatar
don't know when
doesn't
they have.
suck in Arena. It's just not
It's
amazing.
just not. Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm the person who actually
Yeah,
liked
you
it.
like Theatar better than me.
Well, no, so this is sort of relative, right? In
Right.
constructed, it is obviously better than in arena. The problem in arena is it feels so bad because at least in constructed, you kind of know it's coming. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe some of you guys will be like, well, that's not worse for me. Or like, I feel better because of it. I feel worse because of it. I don't know. For me, it just sucks because I'm like, oh man, turn 4, I'm using the entire time. Like, oh, what's my play? I could either do 3-1 or 2-2, or maybe it's the hero power instead. None of it mattered, right? None of it mattered. They had the siren in hand the entire time. And like once I see it on like turn 14 or something, I'm like, okay, so I wasted a lot of brain power on literally nothing. Like unless I was gonna aggro them down, in which case I had no opportunity to do that. That this none of this mattered. So that feels really really bad. You just can't have that in the arena. At the same time, a card like Buffoon Biggin, you're also just like, well, what was I supposed to do? Not kill their minion? I don't know. I had to kill their minion. Or it's like, they're just going to bump their minions into me, and they play Buffoon Biggin, and I guess I lose. So, yeah, these bans, I think, have to happen. And the tools that Hearthstone gave constructed players, as, quote, toxic as they are, or as anger-inducing as the answers might be, are just not there in the arena, and that is problematic, right? So you have Sire, you never know when he's going to show up, and then he just sort of erases everything that's happened before that point,
Mm-hmm.
and it just makes a lot of people way too mad. They're just like, I didn't need to spend all this time. It's like you spent all this time uh doing a project, whether it's for school or work, and you show up, and at the end, you're like, oh, it's ungraded, or oh, you thought that we were going to show this to the client? No, this was just, we just wanted you to do it for the sake of doing it. You're like, wait, what? Um, it just feels really, really bad for players. So, yeah, just get rid of it. That's fine. And I'm not saying get rid of all bombs. You can keep shitty cards, like what ADWCTA is saying about Ysera, right? Like, bad bombs. You can keep those.
Okay. Get rid of Ysera. Ysera is bad for good players, good for bad players. And most players are bad players. So Ysera is very good for most players.
I honestly think if you want to draw a line and if you want to keep some, because look, Sire I think is way more toxic than Ysera.
Yes.
You agree with that?
Yes.
Like way more toxic.
So I think
right?
Ysera should be should be part of the ban line. Like I don't think Ysera should be below the ban line. Like I would definitely draw the line below Ysera.
So that's fine. Wherever you draw the line, I think Sire has to go. Stuff like Sire. So Sylvanas.
Sylvanas,
right?
obviously.
Sylvanas,
Yeah, that's a big
obviously.
one. All those Colossus. All the ones we rated S plus tier.
Yes, all the I totally forgot about those. Well, because we haven't
seen them in a while. We haven't seen them for a while because they realized what the hell happened. They're like, I can't really bring this back in the arena.
So look, I think that you make sure that the colossal minions never come back. You can get rid of Sire, Sylvanas. If you want to keep Ysera in, I'm fine with it. I'm kind of okay with it. I think that's sort of the limit of where a late game bomb should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ysera is beatable. It's not easily beatable, but it is beatable. It gives you a little bit more time to beat it, right? And you want to think about ways in which you can potentially beat it. Sire is just like you're winning. Suddenly a 30-mana swing. Like,
yep.
Okay, that's a little bit too much. Like that's a little bit more than what I was expecting. And it's not even RNG, right? Well, it could be RNG, but lots of times it is not RNG. It's not like a box in which if they play a box of Yogg Saron, and if it is a 30-mana swing from a box, you're like, okay, well, they just got lucky. But a lot of times with Sire, it's like, well, there wasn't really any luck involved. They were going to clear your massive board and also heal up. So now you're dead.
Yep. I mean, that's how the game goes. And that's if we have very little solutions on the technical side. If you had technical abilities, you can make Arena so much better. We kept talking about Arena 2.0. Obviously, Arena 2.0 is not coming on Tuesday. I think that's a little too early for Arena 2.0 to be coming. But if they could do something in a consistent way, like here are some cards in which it has a certain mechanic associated with it, and they are just going to get nerfed for the arena. Rather than just nerfing offering rates, they actually nerf the card itself, which I know from a dev perspective, you want people to think this is a loot hoarder. Loot hoarders look like this. Loot hoarders do this. Loot hoarders cost this. This is a loot hoarder, right? But you also can see that they're not really 100% of this rule. Like Battlegrounds exists. It has all these random minions that, back in the day used to exist in Battlegrounds and existed in normal Hearthstone. And they did not have the same mana costs. So I think the era of Arena and Constructed have to be 1-to-1. It doesn't have to remain consistent. Like, I think that era could come to an end with a lot less loss of consistency than would be the case, say, 4 years ago, because of everything else that's happened in Hearthstone. So if you just had, like, especially if you're not doing individual cards and people get confused, you're just doing general rules like, hey, Colossus is a mechanic that is too powerful in Arena. All Colossus cards are nerfed. Discover is a card that is too powerful in Arena. All Colossus cards are nerfed. And, you can nerf them in different ways too, but as long as players know that this type of card is nerfed, they'll be able to watch out for it, and they'll mentally create two versions of the card, right? Like, this is the Constructed version, this is the Arena version. I think you just have to go by mechanic rather than by a specific card. Like, Wild Seeds are too powerful in Arena, and so you'll have a list of nerfed mechanics, not a list of nerfed cards, and every card in that mechanic gets nerfed somehow. Even if that makes a card that is not actually problematic in Arena just even worse. Like, just to keep the consistency that players expect everything to be nerfed a bit and different in Arena. So let's say you have a Discover card that's not really a problem, like, I don't know, that 3 mana 2/2 that discovers a 4 mana card, right? Nobody's complaining that that's OP. I think you gotta nerf that a little bit in that case. Just to remain consistent, right? Or you just like don't put it in the arena at all. But I think that is a easier way to fix some of the problematic cards, almost all the problematic cards, I think, outside of legendaries, without upsetting stuff. So like locations, right? All locations have one less charge. Well, that's just how it is, right? Or all the locations, it costs one more mana. Whatever you want to do. You have these things, people can remember them easily, and you've fixed a lot of cards in Arena that were problematic and now don't even have to have lowered offering rates. So, I don't know how easy it is to technically do that, but there's also, I think, a dev mental hesitation for creating a different set of cards for Arena. But like I said, I think the era for that is over. I think cards they can just be different. And the percentage of players who play Arena and Constructed is now a lot lower than that used to be because there's so many different game modes. So, like, I don't know. How many Battlegrounds players play Constructed? How many Battlegrounds players play Duels, right? Like, these kinds of things, they're not as intermingly as they were before. When you just had Arena and Constructed, every Arena player also played Constructed somewhat. And then they quit. And every Constructed player played a little Arena, and then they quit. And we're at the point now where, like Merps was saying, there's not that much overlap between Constructed and Arena players. I think there's still some, but it's usually like a lot of people that quit stuff. And if you quit one and you're playing the other, you may go back to the other one, but you're already mentally separating the two. It is not Hearthstone the game. It is Hearthstone Arena versus Hearthstone Battlegrounds versus Hearthstone Constructed.
Yep. I think that's fair.
All right. Anything else you want to say before the big patch? Because next episode's gonna be crazy. I don't know how it's gonna be crazy, but if they better not fumble this announcement. They hyped it up too much.
Yeah. No, I don't think I have anything more to say. I just want to. I also believe it's like, man, if you're gonna make an announcement about this, you better nail it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll be big. I think it'll be fun. Like, Hearthstone needs something. Like, all the modes need something. I think. So look,
Death.
whatever it is, I'm hoping the Arena also gets a slice of the pie. Whatever changes there are.
All right. So until next week, when we discuss the new slice of the pie that we're all getting, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merp. See you guys.